That's
All
what
right.
everything's for, exactly.
Welcome to Loud Thoughts with Seaman and Chance. Today we have on Jenna Dallinga, who is a massage therapist, personal trainer, and owner of 2 locations of therapeutic massage and wellness. Welcome today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. So before we get started, do you want to tell us a little about you, who you are, what your passion is, what you do?
So I have been a massage therapist for close to 20 years, added in the personal training aspect to help coordinate the differences between strengths and weaknesses of the body. I believe the body is such a beautiful thing on being able to compensate our patterns. So having the personal training side of things come into play with the massage therapy has been a complete game changer. Having both locations now, the Newtown is up and running for about 2 months. Yay, finally. Long time coming. Added in a bunch of recovery services. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait to dive into this, but we are in a world that is filled with adding in touchless things to help with our healthcare and well-being, especially since COVID hit.
True.
And wanting to add a little bit more value into the world by adding in these recovery services that Newtown now has.
So. That's awesome. Touching upon like kindness and all that kind of stuff, you also do a
kindness program.
Yeah. Which I would like to dive into just a little bit. What inspired you to have everyone kind of submit someone that you think deserves this for a free massage,
and what exactly is it? Because I'm coming from an outside, I'm not even sure about what it represents.
So in both locations we do a kindness program. So the kindness program is you can nominate anybody that you want to nominate, someone that you think that deserves a little bit more kindness in their life. So we then take that person, the nomination of that person, we put it into like a bin per se, and we pick a winner every single month, and you either get a massage or facial. We add in the recovery services now, but the whole jam about it is let's give back.
Love it.
Very cool with that.
I love all about giving back is huge, and I think we need to see more of it, and that's so great to see that within our community as well.
And we get so many good stories, right? So like when you don't just say like I nominate Danny Chance, like no, it's I nominate this person for this reason. They've been going through this. Then when we pick the winner, we read it, and we actually read it to that person that won.
And I'm sure.
Oh, so they actually have to put down the reason behind why they're being nominated. But that's a very good idea.
Because then you could just nominate anyone.
That's true. Well, I find a lot. Well, every time I do any kind of like activity, there's like pro bono work or assistance work, and I try to do stuff with veterans. Everybody's got an individual story, no matter who they are or where they are in life. Like you would think that somebody's just a run of the mill. Every normal person you've ever met has a story that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Which I find
that,
very cool.
and it's like I feel like sometimes the strongest people who you know are sometimes the ones battling some of the worst inside. So I think that's also a great way to recognize people, because a lot of people won't give themselves that recognition so someone else can.
Correct.
Which I love.
We just added in a kindness program in-house too.
Okay.
So I just did it for the first time last month. So we did both locations. I have 25 employees on both locations total. So we did 1 month. You can nominate repetitively your staff members, your colleagues. Say somebody did something that you just thought was super nice, kind, whatever it may be. You write it down. We put it in the jar, and we picked at the end of the month. So what we did was we actually had a tie. And I did like a little gift for the winner. But what was really cool is reading what each person did, right? Because even for me, I don't get to see what everybody's doing. Mm-hmm. So now we have these like nominations, and I'm reading through them. I'm like, I have the kindest staff.
That's awesome. And what a great way to promote being good at what you do, no matter what it is, right? I feel like a lot of people don't want to put the work in, so that's a great way to get employees to want to work.
And also, too...
And better yourself.
asking my staff members to do these kindness, whoever the winner is, right? So I'm asking them to participate in this community-based kindness program, and everybody's on board. So it's something that I bring to the table immediate before even hiring them. This is what we do. You're required to give back to the community. So giving back to them in-house, it's another great way to show appreciation. Yeah, for sure.
It incentivizes it too, which is very cool, because a lot of people think like being a good person is just an innate trait, but it's not. It's a learned trait. And if you incentivize the ability to become a better person, it projects it outwards, because not only if you want to fix yourself, the best way to fix yourself is to try to help others. It's 100% proven. And if you can also find a way to incentivize that, it shows appreciation and willingness to assist others. So it helps. It helps. Everybody benefits from it. You benefit from it as an employer. The employees benefit for it, and the people that they work with.
Great morale.
Yeah, great morale, and that also
pushing
usually
the ones that might not want to push. Seeing that might make them want that push where they might have not wanted it before.
And how good does it feel when you get to read these to the person and say, "You're the winner. Here's what your colleagues said about you."
So I did one. I think like a few years ago, and one of my girls got picked, and it was like game changer for her. So nice. I seen both sides, so it's just great. I love it.
And one more thing on that, the downstream effect is that the morale boost also flows downstream to your clientele, which increases future business. So it's a smart idea for anybody to implement something like that, because it allows the end product to benefit as well.
Yeah, and you're touching upon, and I could dive into this for days, is how are you motivated, right? So learning that tool and that leadership side of things, owning a business with the 25 employees, my job is to be a strong leader, right? Yeah. My job is to see how is, Julia motivated. What makes her feel the most special? So having a kindness program in-house, not only am I touching on the verbal side of things, of the recognition, but are they motivated by money, right? So I'm hitting 2 out of, say, the 3 categories that I look at of how someone is motivated. And I get to do it across the board, and then they get their kindness nominations, and you give it back to them, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's so nice that such and such wrote about me."
I gotta tell you, like, working in the school system, even, just any little bit of recognition would have, I feel, pushed people farther to do good at what they were doing. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Because so many people are unrecognized for what they do. So 100%. That's so huge. Turning into, what is your why? Because I know how passionate you are.
Sure.
Your passion kind of just flows out of you.
Sure.
So what's your why? What's your drive? Because I'm biased because I've been with you since you were in a chiropractor's office, and then
one
room into now 2 spas. You know what I mean? So from there, to now, like, you've come so far. Like, what kept you going? What was, what's your why?
My why has shifted so much as I've grown. So my original why, probably, I would say, is to be able to help as many people as possible. The gift of this profession is that the harder that I work to gain more knowledge, get more education, go to more classes, the more people I can help, right? So to me, that's
addicting. What I love is I saw how many classes and workshops and certifications you were getting. Like, that's dedication. That's, so it's rare to see, I feel like.
Well, she also touched on a point that we talk about, maybe not on the podcast yet, but the fact that you need to have your goals and your drives be malleable, because it allows for future progression. Because otherwise, you're going to reach a goal that you set. You're supposed to set the bar at a reasonable place, but know that the bar is supposed to move, and that's what you're allowing to do, and that's how you progress in any career, any field,
correct.
Like your field, any field division or anything, even personally or interpersonally, and that's a big deal. So the fact that you kept it malleable definitely will allow you to succeed further than where you are now.
It's addicting too. I mean, I take a lot of pride in it, right? So
as you should.
the more people that I can help, especially the rare ones, right? I'll take you, for instance, like, this is such a great story. I saw her brother at a party, actually a colleague of mine, a chiropractor, and he was like, my sister, doesn't really like chiropractic, but she's in so much pain, she can barely even be touched. And I was like, well, I would love to try. I would love to try to help her. And, you have these conversations. Well, I have these conversations often with people where they're like, oh, you think you could help this person? And 50% of the time, maybe they don't call. The other 50% of the time they do, right? And I remember our first session. And, she had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and all this stuff. And I'm a true believer that once you start putting a diagnosis on yourself, you can start to believe that, like, that's who you are, right? Like, oh, I am fibromyalgia. I'm not going to beat this, right? Like, they're telling me, like, there's no cure for this. Yeah. And you start to really mess with your head.
Oh.
Because
they also want to put you on medications. They want to do this, they want to do that, and for me at least, there's always no answers from doctors. So I was looking for anything to help. Sure. Right at that point too, I was just in so much pain. You couldn't even touch my lower back. Now, like, hey, I can touch my lower back. Oh my god!
Which the beauty of that, situation was that it allowed you greater opportunity for growth within your whole life.
Yes.
So that kind of stuff is like the most powerful of the stories, right? But just kind of full circle. That whole transition of, like, wanting to be the best that I could be for my clients is what motivated me. And now it's how much can I teach all of my staff members? Because as I'm 20 years in, I'm not treating as much, right? I'm trying to manage my businesses, run my businesses. However, I want my staff members to have as much knowledge as possible. So I do an extensive amount of training. Whatever is in my head, I will give you. I'll give you all.
Now, is it mandatory to do the training with you, or is it, hey Jenna, I would like to learn more. Can you teach me?
Heavy emphasis on interview process.
Okay.
I will usually say something like, if you do not want to learn more, this probably is not the place for you.
I like that. Up front.
100%.
Up front, so you can't say, hey, didn't warn ya, right? Yeah. No, I like that though. It sends out a good message. It sends out, we want the right people, which means you're going to get the customers that you want because you're
high standards.
Yes, exactly.
That's being intelligent about your hiring base. That's also making sure that you have the right kind of atmosphere around you, because there are a lot of people that in every career type that want stagnation because they just want redundancy. They're not really looking to learn or progress further. They actually just want the ability to maintain the life that they have now, because they're just not ambitious in that part of life. And there's actually a lack of ambition throughout now, 100%. But that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
But that's being intelligent about your hiring process.
Yeah.
Right? Which it seems like you obviously are, because you put a lot of the right things from.
This is the standards we have. Here's and I have a really strong management system right now where we go through everything. I run my businesses similar to a corporate style on the expectations. That way, there's no room for that assumption, and I don't want anybody to feel like there's she's kind of a little wishy-washy. No,
there is no wishy-washy about.
This is how we run it. This is how we run the show. Here's the expectations. Here's what you can expect from me too, as your owner. Right? You want to meet one-on-one? Like, I will give you my time. You want to go over X, Y, and Z, whatever you want to go over. Like, I'm all for it. I'll give you anything I have in my brain in 20 years and hundreds of courses.
Well, what I like too is that, and you say you give it to your staff members, but not only do you give your knowledge to your staff members, you give it to your clients, because you've not only worked on my body, but you're like, hey, this is what you need to work on. I'll send you some stretches. Again, I'm sure 50% of the time you're going to have people who don't do them. 50% of the time you're going to do it. I'm just amazed at what you can teach me who doesn't know about it, and I can start to feel where I need it in my body. So
knowledge is power, you know.
And I love it.
I want to say that so very much.
Knowledge is power.
And it's true, and it's your duty to kind of give it away if you have it, because you're doing yourself a disservice to the knowledge that you have if you don't.
Sure.
But your career is probably one of the few where it's, if you have a good moral standings, the best client you have is one that you don't have to see again, because you give them the right information to have longevity in their own lives.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's,
again,
but it's rare to find
an
that.
example, I had to see her every single month, at probably even more before that. Now I see her every 2 months. So when you do the work, it also helps.
Yeah, I mean, but you are the prime example, right? When I started giving you your exercises, and she was doing them, like religiously doing them, I said to her one day, I really would like to get you from once a month to twice, to every other month.
Yes.
I said, we can go back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
I know, I was so nervous.
I was like, I'm not trying to break up with you. I'm just asking for us to see less of each other on the treatment side, for reasons of I don't want you to need me.
Absolutely.
So going once a month to every other month was like, and we did this maybe 2 years.
Yeah, a little bit before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right?
And you did all of your exercises, and the beauty of it too is when you didn't feel good, you would text me and say, hey, like, I'm feeling this. And I'm like, all right, well, let me get to my database. Like, let me see. I have over 200 videos that I've created on my YouTube channel. And as for these reasons, right? To be able to educate enough where you don't need me. If you do your exercises, do your stretches, or do your strengthening, depending on what's going on, then you're probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah. It's just, you got to put in the work
100%.
To get the results. And I feel a lot of times people don't do that. But it's so nice when you do see it in others. And I think you help that so much by giving that information to your clients, to everyone.
It's key, yeah.
Which moves me to my next point almost of like what really as like every person, everybody should be doing for themselves so that they don't have to always need massage therapy or chiropractor or this or that. What are we not doing in our daily lives, do you think?
Well, I think everybody needs to have some kind of self-care, right? We got to be able to pour into ourselves. A lot of us are just either workaholics, we're sitting all day, we're stagnant. We need to have some kind of routine, right? So whether it's working out, whether it's going in the hot tub, whether it is getting a massage once a month, even a facial once a month, some kind of routine that is self-care, and figuring out what makes you feel the best. So for everybody, I think it's a little different. For you, it might be that you go to CrossFit every day because that's what makes you feel your best. I mean, everyone's a little bit different, but
that's true.
I do believe that a routine of some sort is super important.
So like a self-care routine
Of some sort, yeah.
No,
Well, it's a general psychological rule too, that if you look at it from that perspective, that Jordan Peterson, one of the 12 rules for life was treat yourself like you're someone you're responsible for. And a lot of us don't do that. The vast majority of the world doesn't do that because they prioritize the needs of others over themselves without recognizing that they're still responsible for themselves mentally, physically, emotionally.
Correct.
On all those levels. So if you don't take care of yourself in whatever fashion that represents, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not offering the best version of you to the people that you're trying to help. And that being said, it's also, I think that you have to cognitively work on being mentally, physically, and emotionally sounder every day. We're always going to be chasing perfection, but we should be treating ourselves like we need to become better as well ourselves, to take care of ourselves. Otherwise, we're not going to get out of our lives what we're looking for to begin with. And that's a big piece of that. Like,
no,
self-care is a very,
I
very
agree
big piece of it.
1,000%. It's one of the main things I do with my clients is, do you treat yourself?
Sure.
No? Well, let's start there. Because if you don't love yourself and give yourself self-care, then it just comes out in worse ways other places.
Yeah.
Well, we can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you keep it super simple, if a lot of us are givers, right? And if you're an overgiver and you're continually pouring and you have an empty cup, or even if you're pouring into other people's empty cup, right? If that cup has holes in it,
That's so true.
You're gonna pour into a cup and it's never gonna fill up.
Wow. Okay, you know what? I've never thought of that before.
And choosing, right? Choose who
you give
to and who you're pouring into.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Your graciousness isn't warranted just by existence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to be very, very smart about who you're. I don't want to use the term kind. Kind's not the word.
You can be kind to you can be kind to everyone. It's more what you're giving to that person emotionally. I feel.
Yeah.
But that's the other side of exactly what you're saying, because self-care is part of that too. Physical self-care is extremely important.
And I feel like a lot of people want to do it.
I think that a lot of people need to do that.
Correct. If we look at ourselves as batteries, right?
Yep.
At any given point, if I get down to about a 20% battery life, I know I'm going away. I know I'm going to do something, because if I get under that 20, I have nothing left. I know my numbers, right? I know my battery life. I know that once I hit that, like, I need to do something, because I'm constantly pouring, and I love to pour. Like, it's probably one of my favorite things to do in life is pour into others.
Yes.
And I've learned that if I choose the wrong person to pour into, it only comes back and bites me. It comes back and hurts me.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt them.
Because I'm pouring and it's an empty cup, or that cup has holes in it, and I'm like, why can't I pour into this cup?
Damn, I honestly.
And they've got holes and holes and holes, and I'm just.
That's such a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brain is a little blown because I never thought of it like that, and I really like that metaphor, even of just knowing who to give your love to and your energy. And
it's very easy to be, and you can't hold yourself negatively accountable for the fact that if you do it to somebody that doesn't deserve it, because it's very easy for people to fool you into being something that they're not. So you also have to make sure that you take a step back and realize that it may not have been your fault, but you have to take accountability for what you did. You have to, absorb the repercussions of your actions, because you chose to make your actions. But I completely agree. Like, because the more you give outward, the more you put yourself in the situation where that's going to become possible anyway. So it's got to be an expectation.
Yeah.
It's very easy to, it's just like the comparison. It's very easy to mistake power for competence because it hides itself there, just like narcissism does. Like, and that same platform goes towards that mentality. But you would do yourself a disservice to stop, because then you're hurting yourself.
Yeah, I always say this: don't ever change who you are for reasons of someone else. You could be cautious, right? And if we just take I'm going to take the word deserve out of the equation, and I'm going to put the word, where is that person at that we're pouring into? Maybe they don't have enough self-care, self-love, self-anything, that they're feeling that they're depleted. So I'm pouring into a cup that a person is depleted, right? So maybe they do deserve it, but they're depleted themselves. They've let their battery go under that 20%, right? So the more I'm pouring, they're not receiving it because they're depleted, right? So choosing who we pour into is super important, but I do feel like it has to do with how that person is taking care of themselves. Are they able to receive love? Are they able to receive the kindness that we were trying to give to them, right? Because that's the goal.
And noticing your own fault sometimes in who you put your trust in.
Yeah.
Because for a while, even I noticed I would make friends with someone because they had the same trauma as me. Right? So I'm like, ooh, trauma buddy. No, I've done the work of going to therapy, EMDR, all of this stuff to get over everything that I've been through in my life.
Sure.
So I'm in a different spot. I forget that not everyone's there.
Sure.
So I'm now aware of like, oh, this is why you're gravitating towards this person. You might not want to gravitate towards that way.
We call it a wound mate.
A wound mate. Okay,
A
yeah.
wound mate.
Well,
you
I
gravitate
realized
towards the person that you feel that
yes
comfort with.
and I realized I had to stop doing that.
Sure.
Because that's where I found my negative energy coming from.
Yeah, I love this rule. I don't know if you guys have heard this. I call it's the 33-33-33 rule.
Mm.
You surround yourself with 33% of the people that are at the same level as you. 33% of the people that are, below you or trying to get to your level, and 33% of the people that are doing bigger things than you. Right?
That makes so much sense.
So not only are you getting motivated by someone that's doing bigger things, you have the people that are doing the same thing, so you can have these conversations and enjoy each other's, conversation on what they're going through and have that similarity.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also get to help someone else and level them up, right? You take all three, put it together, you're hitting all three, sides of things, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a beautiful way to...
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Always powerful
Your
conversations.
face is wonderful.
Honestly,
It's a very good outlook. I do agree with that.
Conversations, and that's what and this is what I love about talking to new people. Everyone just you can see things from different perspectives.
Sure.
Everyone has a different perspective, and that's what I love. I love hearing everyone's different perspective because that might change even how I think of something.
Sure.
It keeps you liable for who you are as well, because it makes sure that you have a place that you're going to and you recognize where you have been. A lot of people do a lot of one of the either. They spend too much time looking at where they've been and not enough time looking where they're going. And a lot of people, I have this issue. I have so much time looking where I'm going that I don't recognize a lot of where I've been. Mm-hmm, even though I tend to give a lot outwardly, so it's not that I do a lot of that, but it's reflection on the fact that you have to recognize where you are to make sure that you're surrounding yourself properly. Because in order to do that, you have to self-reflect to realize where you're going and where you've been.
Yeah,
and where
you have to have a balance.
Sure. Yeah. And listen, I'm not trying to knock the people who say surround yourself with the 5 best people and you're going to turn into the I get it. But if I'm looking at big picture, I like the opportunity to have someone to look up to. I like the opportunity to help someone, and I like the opportunity to have similarities with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
I think so.
Especially if you want to keep bettering yourself, because it's only going to keep changing and bettering yourself. I mean, I love it.
Oh, absolutely. I think was it Aldous Huxley? I think it was Huxley. One of the things he says, and it's along that lines, it's if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
100%.
That's same thing where you're in the room that everybody agrees with you, you're also in the wrong room because you have nothing left to learn.
Correct.
That makes so much sense.
We don't need to be around a bunch of yesers.
No. You
challenge me.
Just
yes.
Exactly.
I'm surrounded by 0 yes men, so that's fine. But let me take back to your career. Talk to me more about your therapeutic recovery structures and what you're doing along that line. So I'm surrounded by a lot of athletes, people that are potential athletes, and I have a lot of history in various different athletic fields. So I'm always interested in seeing what people are doing to help not just athletes, but even just injured people. I've had a lot of injuries as well.
Sure.
Injured people, athletic people, there's the list can go on of people that are in necessity of these things. But
yes.
100%. So this new location I have in Newtown is a lot of those recovery services. I did a combination of red light therapy, infrared therapy, which is a sauna, cryotherapy that's coming any moment.
Oh my god.
Float therapy, which is 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt and you lay in it.
Yeah, I've done that.
Some compression therapy, combined it with some more medical techniques of massage therapy and skincare. So the simplicity for me is that we have different layers, right? We have as simple as our skin to our muscular layer of like bones and joints down to our cellular level, right? So if we can just talk simplicity of massage therapy, you're getting down to the muscular levels and doing massage to help alleviate, muscle pain or tension or range of motion, helping them stretch, helping them feel more mobile, right? That's a simple part of massage therapy. But then you start thinking about like a cellular level, and you start talking about like ATP and like targeting with energy, right? So light, red light, infrared, it's light is energy, right? So we have different wavelengths of energy. So think about all the things that we have in our world that if light hits it, it grows, right? Let's take like a fruit, right? Let's take something that grows and you put light on it, and now we have the ability for it to be ripened, right? So just think of a plant. You put light, the plant grows. Light is going to give energy. It's going to make, production. And we have the ability on all different levels. Red light, specifically, you're going to get more targeted to the skin. You're going to help with acne, pigment changes, scar tissue. You're going to help with stretch marks. You're going to help with, even targeting ATP, right? Creating more energy. Cellular level, right? And different rays of light that we have, and not to get too technical on these words, but there's different wavelengths. The different wavelengths, far, near, and mid infrared.
Okay.
It's different levels. It's going to target how deep it penetrates in the body.
Interesting.
So when you go into like an infrared and you have far infrared, it's going to target more cellular level. If you take the red light, which I love the red light. I had her go in that.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I had to go into the red light.
Yep.
So the red light is so powerful. It penetrates super deep. You're getting that cellular. It's amazing for energy. Amazing for your eyes. Amazing for targeting different parts of your body. You get the joint pain. It helps with inflammation. The saunas, infrared sauna is going to help with, even just blood pressure, right? So you're targeting different parts by now bringing in things that go to the cellular level, things that are deeper penetration. The float therapy, super cool. I could be a floater every day. It's like going into the Dead Sea. So you lay, you're at about 1.5 feet of water, 93 degrees or so, tries to get to the temperature of your body, and you literally feel like you're just floating. You feel weightless, completely weightless. So
That's nice.
A lot of the CrossFit guys are doing that, and I use it as a meditative state.
And now you said you've tried it, right?
I've done it a couple times.
How did you like it?
It was relaxing.
Yeah.
Is what I found it. I personally found it like just a relaxing experience.
sure.
Are there like different benefits that you're supposed to feel from it, or?
Yeah. So the float therapy has a lot of different anxiety components to help relaxation, sleep apnea. There is a heavy meditation component in it. You do get into that, like the more you float, the more you're able to get into that meditational feel.
Interesting.
But I mean, tremendous amount of studies for even joint pain. Think about going into an Epsom salt bath, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all know, like, oh, like I have pain in my body. Like
I don't even
someone told me to take an Epsom salt bath, right? But like we've heard that.
Yeah.
All of us.
All
It's
Like,
like an
of us.
extreme version of that.
It's an
Correct.
extreme.
It's an extreme version.
I have to say, I wish, because I've tried Epsom salt baths with my pain forever, and I was like, this shit don't work.
Sure.
But like,
And
maybe
it's
not enough though, right? Maybe the temperature wasn't high enough. Maybe.
And an Epsom salt is, I mean, I'm talking 1,000 pounds.
Yes. So I'm like,
Yeah.
Right,
here
which
in
is
my little
a-
tub. I'm like, what the hell is this shit?
It's a lot. It's a lot of salt.
I definitely. There's so many things that you have that I want to try. I want to try the compression.
Compression, compression is great too.
What does that like benefit? Like, because I feel like, for me, pressure feels good.
Sure.
I just know for me that is something that would relieve. What else are the benefits of that?
So the compression is really, really great for the lymph system. So our lymphatic system is our immune system. So mostly everyone on my staff does manual lymphatic drainage. However, we wanted to add in some components that were touchless. So if you wanted to like come in and do compression, you could put it on for 30 minutes, an hour. And it's basically going to take a pumping, rhythmic pressure where it's going to allow things to circulate through.
Ooh.
So, and you can gauge it from light pressure to really deep.
Okay.
So great for athletes, great for someone with light pain, great for someone that is on their feet all day long.
Okay.
And it's
so
relaxing.
It really is, just beneficial all
Sure.
around. I love that.
It's finding what works for you.
They feel great, by the way, like that. Cause my friend has a set of the leg
I
ones.
feel like
Yeah.
it's probably going to be my favorite thing.
Yeah.
I really do. Besides the red light, because I could feel the energy from that, and which I also think is, for me at least, and I know there's not like many studies done on red light with like seasonal depression, but just the warmth and like what I felt from that 10-minute session, I had energy after my massage, which normally I come home from my massage and I'm just like, I want to relax. I actually felt good and was like, and I felt, I'm like, I'm going to need this in the winter.
Yeah, I mean, I personally sauna a lot. Like, I probably sauna 3 to 4 times a week. With the red light, I'll jump in the red light for 10 minutes as well, but I just find what works for me, right? I love how I feel in the sauna. Infrared sauna has a lot of studies on depression, anxiety components, sleep components. I mean, there are so many studies. I watch a lot, or listen to a lot of podcasts on infrared to red light to, Joe Rogan is a...
Don't get me started.
Is
the man. I got it.
I mean, he's brought so much emphasis, and listen, I could debate cold therapy all day.
Here's a question for you then, because I'm a big advocate. Well, this is 2 things. One, based on what I'm about to ask, what are some things that people could do therapeutically on their own at home that would be advantageous to them, whether it's just normal day-to-day life items that everybody could benefit from? I'm a big advocate of sauna to cold water therapy because of the stimulation of the nervous system stimulation and the fight or flight response that creates your new proteins in your
100%.
system that allows me to recover
if
much
you're in a hot
quicker.
tub and then you
Dopamine.
There's tons of it.
Give me all the dopamine. I wish that I could take a freezing cold shower every morning.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a lot of benefits.
No, and I know, I will say taking a cold ass shower has felt amazing.
Sure.
Not all the time, but definitely certain times that I've noticed where I might need to like cool down, or my body's just overheating, or probably the inflammation, right?
I agree. I mean, the cryotherapy, which is an extreme, right? You go into a chamber, you're 200 something, negative 200 Fahrenheit. It's 2 to 3 minutes.
You don't really. It feels weird more than it feels freezing.
I feel like
I would like to say it feels weird. It feels like something you have. It's not like getting into an ice bath.
Because like what you were saying though,
your nervous system is pretty, like, it's kind of trying to figure out.
Yeah, what the hell's going on? It doesn't react in the same way where you get those like weird tightening up chills when you're trying to slide into an ice bath. It's not that it's not cold.
Before you were saying going from hot to cold or cold to hot. What were you saying?
If you go from hot to cold, well, you can probably explain it in better detail than I can. I have a decent amount of scientific understanding behind it.
So is it almost like when you're in a hot tub and then you jump into like the snow in the winter
immediately into cold, and your body creates a fight or flight response, which releases different proteins and has a different systematic response to your proteins being released into your body. It dumps dopamine. It also helps. Really? They say it helps regulate serotonin levels. I don't know if I necessarily.
Well, no wonder
believe
I
it or
loved
know the
doing
science
it as
behind
like a kid. I used to have a hot tub at my
Yeah.
house, and me and my friends used to love jumping into the cold
extremely good
ass
for you.
snow and then jump right back in. It just felt amazing.
Stimulates cognitive function too,
Interesting.
which
I never
most
knew
people
that.
didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, right now the hype of, cold plunges is huge, right? Like,
yeah.
and we used to see it back in the day with athletes, like with the, tubs, and they would, fill it with ice, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
A couple weeks ago.
And now it's like so big that people are buying in-home plunges.
Wow.
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Yeah, my friend has one with one of those in-house private, like the individualized saunas that you can plug into the wall
Cold
kind of
plunge.
thing, right next to the cold plunge.
Interesting. So talking about like athletic level, have you worked with any baseball players or
I have,
profession?
so doing this for 20 years, I have worked with professional football players, baseball players, and I regularly work with the WWE. So the WWE stuff was something that I brought into play about 6 years ago on a technique I do. Is called ART. So active release techniques is a soft tissue technique that is very protocol based, which means that you go to me or you go to Joe Schmo in North Carolina. If he has taken an ART seminar, we can do the same protocols. So, which is really great because you're learning the technique. And I could see a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, you're seeing such and such for ART? Have her do these 4 protocols. Now, I haven't worked on this guy in 15 years, okay? And he's like, all right, I'll tell her to do that. He calls me up, he's like, dude, I've never felt so good. Like, how did you know that that's
Wow.
what she should do for me? I said, because I know what your body needs, and it's protocol based. So he did it, and he's like, then I, of course, sent him his homework. Right? So here's your homework.
Yep, always.
And I'm like, you probably and no offense to the person he's going to, I'm like, you probably won't need her every week now.
Yeah.
Like, if you're getting the right care
The right one, yeah.
and the right things for that person, and you're doing your homework, you don't need that person to be taking care of you every single week.
Yeah.
So, but it is. It's a.
But that has to be kind of like exciting, right? Like, especially with the WWE.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with professional
I'm
athletes.
a little like, envy over here of like, ooh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. You know what I mean?
As
Like,
a trainer, I love working with athletes. There's something different about working with an athlete because there's a drive there that's not there with your common person. Because you don't have to worry about their motivation to take care of themselves or to become better because they already have. They're coming to you because they're motivated to be better.
They want to be the 1%.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it is,
That's a good point.
That's my favorite part about training. Like when
Sure.
I still do professional run coaching and I do some
Yeah.
for some of my obstacle course race athletes that I used to work with, and I do
Yeah.
some coaching on that end. But it's only I only work with some athletes now, and I just love it for that exact reason. They want to be the 1%, so you don't have to motivate them. They're already motivated. They didn't come to you unmotivated, so you just got to provide them tools. Like
Exactly.
that's all that you have to do because they're willing to do the work. Willingness is already like a precedent that was set before they walk through the room.
That's fun though.
It makes it
it
very
is.
gratifying to watch too
Oh, I'm
because
sure. And to see them
success.
yeah, I was just gonna say the success, to
Yeah.
see them succeed in what they're
'Cause
doing,
they want
and
to
that
succeed.
you've also been a part of that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have one athlete that I worked with on and off for like the last 4 years, trying to make it in the big leagues, pitcher, and comes to me on off season, and he's like, I just need you to tell me what I need to work on. So I body read, I figure out where's his strengths, where's his weaknesses, how's he doing with his mechanics, and then I'll write a program for him. And he'll actually follow the program because he is the 1%. He wants to be the best.
Yep.
So it's extremely rewarding to now see he made the big leagues. So that was
That's awesome.
super. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. The feeling in here, I feel like sometimes you just can't express
You
the
can't, it's
gra-
almost
yeah,
pride. It's almost pride.
gratitude,
Gratitude,
pride, whatever.
100%.
There's just so many feelings that you must be feeling when that happens. Like yes.
And you don't have to chase it. That's the cool part too, because they get excited when they so they let you know their progress. Like they.
Oh yeah.
Well, not only are they thankful and grateful for it, which is a very cool thing too, because I really appreciate that. But they also want to tell you because the goal is for them to keep progressing. So they let you know when they progress to make sure that you're in the same position as they are when they come to you next.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I mean, it's so valuable to like have that 1%. I don't know if you guys know who Tim Grover is.
No.
That name sounds familiar, but you're gonna have to.
So, oh god, he wrote the book Relentless and Winning.
Oh yeah.
That sounds
okay,
familiar.
got it. I read Winning.
Yeah.
I read
So
Winning.
Winning. Oh, such a. Actually, I'm reading it again right now.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was about a year and a half ago, so it wasn't.
So Tim Grover was Kobe Bryant's trainer.
Okay.
He was Michael Jordan's trainer, D Wade's trainer. So heavily into. I mean, he trains a lot of people, but primarily his name got big with basketball players.
Okay.
And he wrote these 2 books, and everything is about like being that 1% and like what it takes, and like the dark side that you have to get to.
Yeah.
Oh.
In order to be the best.
And the willingness to sacrifice.
I can only imagine
the willingness to
dark
sacrifice in
places.
areas and times that you don't want to sacrifice. Like people always see your success, but they never see the sacrifices that are there
That's very true.
that created it.
No,
Like
that is very
100%.
true.
a lot of people will criticize your accomplishments without realizing the sacrifices that your career, your life, your goals, any goal. But if you are successful, it came at some sort of sacrifice, and usually a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, and I also think too when people criticize, though, they're more jealous than anything.
I believe that.
I think when we criticize in a negative way, it's an aspect that we kind of either wish we
A projection.
had, or you know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
100%.
There's
100%.
definitely those projections that come into play.
yeah,
But I do think like, you know, we have the ability to push ourselves to the level of what our purpose is meant to be in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so heavy right now on this like on the sacrifice piece, right? You have to sacrifice in order to achieve to the level that you want to achieve in any capacity.
Mm-hmm.
However, the discipline piece is huge. I think that has been probably my biggest gift that I've had for myself is to have discipline.
Yeah.
I didn't show up every day at 100. You know, Eric Thomas, I think his name is, E.T. they call him. He's like a big podcast guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm 120. I'm 120.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
there is no 120. Like, I'm not going at 120. I'm like, maybe I'll hit 100, but I try to hit a regular 80%. I will give 80%. I always try to give myself a 20% of my foot not fully being on that gas pedal. Because when I need to put that freaking gas pedal down, like, I need that reserve. I need that 20%. So I will stay at a solid 80%, and when I gotta kick it up, I have it, hopefully. But that's always the goal.
There's always more, though. There's always more. I like to believe, and I
think
believe that too. Like
I
just
think
knowing
everybody's
what I know.
different too. Everyone has different levels. Everyone has different outputs.
Oh yeah,
so
but
like,
every individual person has more than they think they do.
Oh, of course.
That's where I was going at. Every single individual.
Yes,
100%.
Every single one of them. And what is it like? One of my favorite things I've ever heard. And to quote, of course, I think this one was Jordan Peterson as well. You're nothing compared to who you could be, and you know it. That's the problem. You know it. And that's a judge. Any ideal is a judge because it's looking down on you because it's what you're not yet, and it's the discipline and redundancy that allows you to pursue that. So
yeah,
like goals are wonderful, but they're useless without traction. So
well, yes, like you can set goals, but do you have the habits set in place to actually reach that goal? Have you taken the necessary steps to? You can have goals. It's just you also need to know how to get to that goal.
yeah, but your goal could be the leading point that sets you in the direction to establish those habits. So they have to work in conjunction with each other.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope, but you got to figure it out. That's the fun of figuring it out.
You have to. Because everyone's so different, you have to try all these different things to
Sure.
figure it out.
I think Denzel, what did he say? Denzel Washington said, Discipline will get you started, but consistency will allow you to finish.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And it's accurate.
Yeah.
It is accurate. I mean, there's like, it's very easy to speak about that mentality, and I guarantee it's a lot harder to have it. I try to convey it to others. That's my favorite thing, which is sounds like you do in your job too. You're very willing to not only give your knowledge, but it seems like you're a motivational person along it, because it's not that you're just willing to give your knowledge. You actually want to see people take it and succeed with it.
Oh, 100%.
Because
100%.
what they could do could be more than what I could do, because I'm going to have a limit on my abilities. But the thing is, if you're just getting started and I can tell you everything I already know, you're starting off further than I am, which means you can go farther than I have gone.
100%.
But that's how you leave your legacy.
I agree. I mean, I've had a lot of employees, right? I would say probably 65, right, over the years. And I've had many employees leave me and open up their own practice. Some do it really grimy. Some who've taken, half of my practice. And every single time that this happens, I never change who I am of pouring.
Nope.
I may choose differently on who I poured into. However, when somebody goes and has a strong practice after they leave me, I'm like you took everything I taught you. And I know that this is listen, in the moment, it's not that I feel like this, because sometimes it hurts. But if you really look to see what you've been able to help someone else create, it is such a beautiful thing for me to see all the people that I've had that have worked for me, that have their own practice.
That's a great outlook.
Because I know I left a mark.
Yeah.
There's no way I couldn't have.
Yep.
I preach, I pour. I want so badly for people to be the best that they can be, because if everyone is doing what they love in this world, think about how much happier people would be. Mm-hmm. If everyone was living their purpose, everyone was doing their, going towards their why, or doing their why.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the world we live in, everyone's happier.
Yep.
There's so much more love.
That opens up a whole other podcast that we could talk about, where a lot of people don't know what their why is.
Oh,
I agree.
So many people.
That's a whole different 2-hour conversation.
Finding your why takes
I completely agree with all of that.
Me and Jenna have had many conversations in the massage room, and a lot of them always talk about growth and just, what were we just talking about? I just lost my whole sentence.
Well, think about, how do you know what your why is?
Yes.
How do you find that? Because that's a question I hear very often.
And like you said, it changes.
For me, it has, yeah, 100%.
As I've gone through my journey, my why has for sure changed.
When I was coaching for 15 years, I just retired, so I was coaching soccer for 15 years, and in the same town in New York, and I knew that I was going to retire my last year. So my why of coaching was significantly different my last year of coaching. Not that I wasn't a big leadership person, but everything came down to leaving a mark. How can I pour into these kids so much that they feel so loved, so important? Similar to what you said earlier, and Gary Vee says this really well. When you want to teach kids and you want to leave a mark on kids, you recognize kindness. You show them and you teach them all of these things, and you applaud them when they do something kind for someone, when they are a good person. Mm-hmm. Instead of just they scored a goal. Mm-hmm. Are they gonna really remember that goal that they scored at 10 years old?
No.
Well, the whole point of sports, it's not, in my personal opinion, the whole point of sports, especially at that age, isn't necessarily the sport. It's who it drives you to become as a person. It's the impact it has on the relationships that you're able to establish with other people. Sure. It teaches you fair play, teaches you reciprocity, it teaches you kindness, it teaches you recognition of others,
leadership, morale,
leadership and teamwork, and those things happen in the realm of sports organically, as opposed to other places like in most career-based atmospheres. It's not necessarily an organic thing because there's different that comes between like the competency and power differences. Like when you go to careers and things like that, people can lead by power. You can know somebody. But when it comes to sports, it's really your competency in that sport that's going to make you a leader. It's competency and reciprocity that's going to make you a leader in sports, and you can't avoid that in sports. So it teaches you to become a better person without thinking about it.
I mean, we're all in the profession of helping others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a convention, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, a coaching convention, and there was about 40 kids on the field, and the guy, the coach on the field, looked out to the audience and he said, "Who am I coaching?" And someone raised their hand and said, "You're coaching soccer." Someone else raised their hand, "Oh, you're coaching, kids." And he's like, "I'm coaching human beings. We're all we're human beings, right?" So when you think of it as simple as that's a human being that's in front of you, the way that you speak to them, the way that you leave your mark on them, especially when they're so young, this is the ability for us to teach, right?
So true.
And to help, maybe they don't get it at home, but I know for me, I wanted to just leave as many marks as I possibly could. And one of the big ones for me was 100% leadership. Teaching them how to be strong leaders on the field to carry through life.
I miss working in the school system solely for working with the kids that did need that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? A lot of the teachers always gave me the behavioral kids because they got so sick of them. Here you go, Danny. You take them. They'd be assholes to me. I'm like, go ahead. Keep talking shit. I'm not going anywhere.
Sure.
And when you show them that you're not going anywhere and you keep showing up for them, you see something change in them.
Sure.
You see that want, and that, for me, just meant everything. If I can get through to one kid, that's huge. That's one kid can make a you know what I'm saying? So it's sports, school, this, leadership, positive roles, showing all of that. It needs to be more, I feel like. It needs to be just more.
I think it's important, like you said, individualized.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I found personally, because I recently took a couple of positions locally that were trying to help a broader community, and I find that the more broad you try to reach your efforts, the less impact they actually have in a way that matters.
Well, yeah, because you
so
can't.
that individualistic output is much better.
Exactly.
Even if you coach a team, though, you're coaching every kid on the team.
Yes.
But if you don't see the individuals that you're trying to assist,
sure.
It's a community. It's a word. It's not people seated in front of you. It's different. So I definitely agree that the individualized time that you spend with people to coach or try to better, it has much more of an impact.
Absolutely.
As well, and I think it has much more of an impact on a broader scale too, because I think that what you do for them, they will do for others. I really think, not at all cases, but the pay it forward module does.
But I do
work.
think when you're positive, people around you are going to tend to think positive. If you're just going to be negative, then the other person's going to be like, well, fuck it, screw it, and then they think negatively.
One bad egg can poison them all.
Oh, exactly. One person can influence the other, So if we can make it so that we're doing more good influencing, then I think, that's the path. That's all I care about is making a difference.
I was asked this question the other day, that if I could have dinner with somebody, dead or alive, who
I love those questions.
Who would I have dinner with, right? And I have multiple people that I would love to sit down with. And one of the people that I really admire in sports is Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter preaches this all the time about how he got to know all of his players. So I don't know if you guys watched any of his captain.
I did. I have not.
Yeah, I didn't watch all of them, but I did get some glimpse at. He's such a strong leader. He was the face of baseball for a very long time.
Many years. My youth.
Yeah.
Well,
my youth.
The fact, because I'm not really a sports person, like Jeter was the one name in baseball everybody knew.
You know who Derek Jeter is.
You just knew.
100%. And so he preaches that. He preaches how he got to know all of his players individually, and that's why they respected him so much.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that matters. That's a cool question.
It absolutely matters.
I love questions like that, by the way. The questions like, who would you have dinner with, dead or alive? There's a ton of those. Like, there's probably a long list somewhere of questions of that nature. And then, but they're the questions that you have to stop and think and realize that there's no actual answer because it'll probably change every day. And
well, like I was just gonna say, I can think of way too many people that I would like to sit down and have dinner with.
Yeah.
Way too many people.
I think I'd have to go with my grandfather though, because if I knew what I knew now when I was young enough to have those conversations with him, he's a role model in real life. So I tried to bring it back to that, but you also have like Aldous Huxley, you have George Orwell, you have Socrates and Plato, you have founding fathers. You have anyone.
It would be so interesting. Yeah. I could go back.
The Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
I'm at Oprah Winfrey.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, really, the list is endless. But
I like the idea of
a good
like Martin Luther King and founding fathers. I like the idea of having a conversation with somebody that you know now in history, that their flaws have come out, but even as a flawed man or woman, they had an everlasting positive impact on the world. So you don't have to be perfect to have a perfect impact.
Okay, so that's the thing too.
Yeah.
Is like
that's
right
cool.
now
Right
in society is like we focus on more what they haven't done, right? Or their flaws, but you don't see the maybe tens and millions of kids that they're influencing on the other side. Okay, so maybe years and years and years and years ago they made a mistake.
Sure.
But not everyone should be held for one mistake. And granted, I'm not saying this works for everyone and everything, but I've made so many mistakes that if people judged me and only went off of that, I would never have wanted to make it farther or do more, or you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I look at someone like Michael Jordan, right? And because I read the books Winning and Relentless by Tim Grover, and I watched Michael Jordan's memoirs.
I really want. Is that the one on Netflix? Because I really want to watch.
It was a series.
Okay, I want to watch that because I mean, growing up, Michael Jordan, again, another name that just like everyone knew was Michael Jordan, and he just dominated. I would love to watch that.
So the to kind of piggyback off what you said is that Michael Jordan is not well liked.
No.
Right? So.
But he is who he is.
So we're talking about like, not having faults as such a strong leader, but being able to be focused on all of your positive things, right? So using someone like Michael Jordan as an example, like he wasn't well liked. He was who he is, right? He never, and as Tim Grover explains, like you gotta accept if you want to be that 1% and you want to be the Michael Jordan. Right? You want to be the Vince McMahon. You want to be, the Tom Brady's. You want to be the Tiger Woods. You want to be the best of the best of the best, right? You have to accept who you are to your core. You cannot mask. That's who you are, right? And someone like Michael Jordan, like he preached, like he wanted to win. Right? So he was going to do, if you were on his court, he was going to make sure that you did what you needed to do. And he was going to tenfold on top of it. Right?
And you have to expect that from someone like him.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the beginning if you did, like, first coming up and not really knowing him and all that kind of stuff. stuff, but once he really,
He was probably-
he immediately proved.
He was probably
Over.
like that from a childhood, right?
Yeah.
Like he was probably that disciplined and that dedicated his whole life. I would assume.
That's amazing.
You notice
to
that
have
it's
such
a character
dedication.
trait that follows into different parts of your life.
Yeah,
And that's just true. Like those kind of characteristics aren't just in sports. So you'll see it elsewhere. You usually see stuff like that in family, relationships, career drive. Like it's something that I preach. Those kind of characteristics that make you very, very singularly focused. Usually make you singularly focused in a specific amount of directions, and that's your life. And there's not a lot that surrounds it. They're usually not the kind of people that you find have many hobbies. They're too isolated.
Sure.
But it's a kind of drive that could go
what
one
was
of two ways
interesting,
too. Though
though-
it can make you a great man or woman, but it could also be your detriment.
100%.
So again, back to like Michael Jordan, right? Like he tried baseball, he tried golf. Was
Both.
it golf?
Yeah.
Baseball and golf. Wasn't that great, but he tried.
He enjoyed it.
He enjoyed it, but he set out to do something, but he didn't look at it as a failure though, right? He looked at it as, okay, that's not what I meant to do. This is what I meant to do.
I mean, he might have looked at it as a failure.
Okay.
Most people that operate at that level usually do. They're
Yeah.
very, very
Okay.
self-criticizing. Like,
I could see that. But in the end, I feel like even though, okay, they might have taken it as a huge loss or I failed, but
Sure.
then I feel like they use that failure
They
instead
do.
of just letting that failure sink them down. They use that failure to come back stronger.
that's what Rich Froning's known for this quote. It's, I don't know what I like more. I don't know what it is more, that I love winning or that I hate losing. But both of them drive me the exact same.
Yeah, it makes sense. Once I started working out and like doing like going to CrossFit and stuff like that, like the competitiveness kind of came out in me too, and it was very interesting. It was a new feeling. It was like, oh, I want to do more. I want to be better. I want to do this. It's interesting.
I
like to hear everyone's thoughts on it, and I just love it.
I think it makes you better all around. I
Yeah.
think having not a competitive personality, but having a competitive spirit, if you will, makes you better in general, because it's a driving factor in your life. There's fair play is the most important, but you have to be competitive to have fair play
Sure.
at the same time.
Makes
Because
sense.
if you look at that intrinsically, you're always gonna
Yeah, it's
be
just how you
competitive with
balance
yourself.
it, right? It's just how you balance it.
absolutely. It depends on how, like Mancini said, it's how you treat your losses,
Yeah.
in whatever form or fashion that
And
is.
how you go
life,
forward.
work, athleticism.
Sure.
It's how you treat those losses that really.
And failures. you
Yeah.
know. I mean, there's such big discussions on failure, right? And how it's the driving force of being able to achieve greatness moving forward, because you're learning. And for me, like, I didn't have a lot of mentors growing up. I have mentors now, but I didn't, like, throughout most of my career. I had a really supportive family, very loving family. But most of the stuff that I don't have a business background. I went to school, but like I didn't take any business classes. Everything that I've done has been either learned off something that I failed on or something that I was able to take from that experience. But my biggest moments of frustration or failure have allowed me the growth of that next step. In order to create or to recreate, right? And it happens daily. Like, again, we're human beings, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And
All the time.
and I even, with my businesses, like I look at things, I just had a huge loss on something, and it ate me up for months, and it was like a money thing that I was like, somebody was screwing me over with like a machine that I had bought, and long story short, I was like, I can't believe that this is real life. But the big picture for me is, well, you know what? I'm an entrepreneur, and I know that every entrepreneur is going to get a hit that I'm experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, whatever level it's at, from, $100 hit to $100,000 hit or $100 million hit, right? You put money in the stock market, like, you have your hits.
Yes.
That, especially when you start to take risks, you're going to have more moments that could possibly put you into a situation. So taking those risks is what has allowed me the opportunity for my growth, and knowing that some of the risks that I take are not going to always pan out.
Well, that's inevitable.
Wow, I really like that.
Well, the age-old thing, what is it? The road to success is paved with failure.
Yeah.
Like, it's very true.
I mean, if you feel like if you don't have any failures, then I feel like something's missing.
It's the smartest one in the room. You're in the wrong room.
You need to fail at something to improve.
There's no growth without failure.
No.
That's proven.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
I want to have you on again because I feel like there's just so much more that we can.
Well, there always is. There always is.
And
I think that everybody has a ton to tell. You can't get somebody's life story
in an hour. You can only cover so much, but we are definitely having her back on for sure.
Well, before, if anything, because like of the 7 people that might listen to us,
yes.
Where can we find you? Where can they find you?
Yes,
online, in real life.
So I have the location in Danbury, diagonal from Ethan Allen.
What's the name of your?
Therapeutic Massage and Wellness. And the second location is in Newtown, 32 Churchill Road. I'm at both locations, and I balance myself between the two to. I really love treating in both locations because it allows me the opportunity to see like where things need to be improved on and all that jazz. But I mean,
I like it too because I get to see both places.
I mean, if anything, the people that do listen to this are likely only our friends at this point, but I will tell you from personal experience that everyone that had time with you or your people were extremely impressed and extremely grateful and spoke very, very highly. So you have a very positive reputation amongst at least our group of people that were just newly introduced to you.
I appreciate just that. Even recently you being at the Scream and Clean, like people are like, you're so lucky that you get in with her, and I'm like, it's I that is something I'm truly grateful for because
we're gonna be doing that event next weekend at CrossFit Danbury.
Yes.
So my staff's gonna be going there, which will be really great. Giving back is again a huge part of my business, and my staff is fully on board on that as well. So it's really nice to be able to use the gift of our hands and give back whenever we can
to the community. I love it.
Well, for what it's worth, we're grateful.
Yes.
Very much so.
Thank you.
So again, Jenna Dallinga, Therapeutic Massage and Wellness. Thank you so much for coming on. I've had such a good time.
Appreciate it.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.